We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show that not only brings you a lot of knowledge, has two good-looking guys on it as well, only from the Sports Box Network. I am the one and only Hamilton Mike Galletta, along with my partner in crime, the infamous Brian, the Ranger Attard, and this is Highly Opinionated. Brian, did you know that a snow falcon doubles his lifespan if he's with the mother until he's 19? Isn't that amazing?
You know, if that ever comes up at trivia, if we were going to play trivia again, I will attribute that to you.
I'm here for useless knowledge. Look at that. So we got an action-packed show for you tonight. A lot of guests to bring on the Sports Box. But first,
yes,
Brian's going to hit you with a little knowledge.
Guys, listen, show brought to you tonight by CrowdPlay. I love those guys. Check out the free app, Apple App Store, Google Play. It is free to play. Win cash and prizes. Use the box and sign up for 10 free points. And if you're as good at CrowdPlay as I am, you're going to need the 10 points because I am terrible. So I highly encourage you to do that.
So Brian is going to run the board tonight on the gamut. Where do we start, Brian? NFC North, AFC North.
Tonight's the North. So I wore my The North Face shirt because tonight we're doing the NFC and AFC North. So We're going to pop around. We got a lot of guests coming on the show to preview their teams, which we appreciate because we want to get, the feeling of the fan base and what to expect this year. We're going to kick it off with somebody who watches Sports Box knows very well, Ryan Hovermale, who is one of our hosts on the Total Degenerate Show, who if you just missed it, was just on right before we were. A lot of good stuff there. Want to welcome on our fellow Packer degenerate, Ryan Hovermale.
What's up, Packers? How are you? How is everybody? Doing fantastic.
If we were any better, we'd be you.
Well, I'd be a lot better if Utah missed a shot every once in a while, but apparently that's not going to happen. It's ridiculous. But, that's the other show. I'm sorry.
No, listen, I get it. I mean, listen, when you're a degenerate, you have these things set up, and that's what.
And it's not good that right now, as I'm talking to you guys, there's a TV right there with the game on. So I'm trying to keep my attention.
Well, let's break it down for the Green Bay Packers as soon as I throw the Packer logo up.
Let's go.
Which looks a lot like a Georgia logo. Anyway.
Yeah.
13-3 a year ago, first place in the NFC North. They got the NFC Championship game. I thought they would win. They did not. They lost to the 49ers. They had the 15th most points in the NFL, the 18th most offensive yards, 17th through the air, and 15th on the ground. Defensively, allowing the 9th least points in the league. That's pretty good. 18th in yards, 14th in passing, 23rd in rushing. Bit of an offseason. Added Christian Kirksey at linebacker. They tried to add Devin Funchess to play number 2 receiver, though he decided he'd rather go home and not play football this year. Opted out. A couple of big names on the subtraction list. Blake Martinez, who was a tackle machine, left. I believe he's with the Giants now. Brian Bulaga, longtime tackle, I think is out on the Chargers. Geronimo Allison, who's probably a product of Aaron Rodgers, left for Detroit. I think he opted out as well. And Jimmy Graham is a corpse, so they took him out in a hearse to Chicago. In the draft, which I'm sure we'll talk about, they moved up to take Utah State quarterback Jordan Love, 26th overall. Bit of a controversial pick, and I think Todd's kind of going back and forth. We'll see where he is today. The over-under for the team is 9 wins this year. So, Todd, I look at those numbers as I scroll down the bottom of the screen. And what stands out to me is that nothing stands out to me because they were a very average team last year. Nothing blew you away. They weren't like really good through the air. They weren't really good on the ground. They let up a lot of yards, but then I guess not as many points.
Right.
So they found a way to win 13 games and get to the NFC Championship game. So I guess that's good.
I'll tell you where it's measurable, but not measurable in the way that you just mentioned. What happened with Green Bay, and as someone who watches every single snap, regardless if it's a blowout, either way. If they're getting beat 42-0, I'm watching every snap. What you saw from Green Bay, a lot of the games last year, they won a lot of close games, were big sacks in big time spots. So you would have a 1st and 10 for it didn't matter who it was, for a team that's trying to drive the field to kick a field goal. That's right. Yeah.
Bears on board.
And what would happen? What would happen more often than not would be a huge sack from one of the Smith brothers. Now you're in a 1st and 27, and it's you just can't get back on track as an offense there. So, it's measurable in that they're showing the amount of sacks, and which Green Bay was way up there last year. But what it doesn't show is that they did give up a ton of yards, and Mike Pettin has made it pretty clear that he just doesn't give a shit about yards. You can give up 700 yards in a game and not let them score a touchdown, give up 9 points or 12 points or whatever it is. So, Green Bay's defense is very much and I hate this term, but it's bend but don't break. They're kind of a bend but don't break, but they rely big time on big plays, sacks, fumbles, interceptions. That's what that defense wants to do. Offensively, very average year from Aaron Rodgers, and I say that. If you look at his numbers, they're very comparable to some of the guys who are considered top 10 quarterbacks. I still think Aaron is one of those, but, by his standards, it hasn't been that good. The running game was really what carried them a lot last year. Aaron Jones had a year that I don't think he'll ever be able to duplicate, no matter how many times you give him the ball, how many opportunities you give him. That's just a career season. All in all, we've talked about this, and I said it when it happened. They are, and this isn't saying that they were a bad team, but that's the worst 13-3 Green Bay Packers team that I've ever seen in my life. And it's not, that's not saying that they're bad, but they, in my mind, were a 10-win team last year. That's where they should have been, 10 wins. So if you watch the post game press conferences or the post game in the locker room, what they kept saying, Rodgers and Jones and LaFleur would all say, "Hey, we ain't going to apologize for winning football games. I don't care how it happens. I don't care if if a team has 500 yards, we have 250. We won the game on the scoreboard." I think they're going to need to do more than that this year, but.
So Ryan, the talk of the I guess the Green Bay offseason was obviously the draft, and we were talking about it heavy at the Sports Box when this team moved up to take a quarterback of all positions that I thought was the least of their worries. Maybe another wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, or maybe an offensive lineman to help Rodgers. It just seemed to me, and I'll get your take on it, that it seemed like instead of helping Rodgers, they're kind of pushing him to the door with that pick of Jordan Love.
I think it's a combination. I think what they're doing right now is if you ask LaFleur and you ask those guys, they're telling Rodgers, listen, we bolstered the offensive line. We brought you in another tight end who can block for you and who can catch footballs. Oh, and by the way, we brought in another running back to take the pressure off of you as a quarterback. And what they also did was clearly they're building for down the road. They are not building. This draft was not for this year. Anybody who says it was is just lying to themselves. A.J. Dillon can be seen as maybe a little bit for this year. Josiah DeGuara, maybe you could see him, having a couple moments this year. But far and away, this was for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And let's be honest, it's for Jordan Love. They're building the team around Jordan Love right now. So it was a shock for me to see Jordan Love's name called. But for me, and I've said it many times since, I did say that I would be very disappointed with that pick before it happened. And when the second it did happen, I was very disappointed. But then when you take a step back and you stop with that initial thought and thinking that the sky is falling, for me, I realized, how can I argue with a team that went from Brett Favre, drafted Aaron Rodgers, and I was more pissed about drafting Aaron Rodgers than I was Jordan Love, and now they drafted Jordan Love. Until they screw me on a pick like that, I have to trust them. And, you talk to any scout, and they're saying Jordan Love is a top 10 pick in many other drafts. And if he came out his junior year, when he had that insane year, he probably is the first quarterback off the board. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. As a fan of the Packers, I'm always looking. I want them to be competitive every single year from now until the day I die. But another part of me wants to say, let's go all in with Rodgers. Let's win now. So double-edged sword.
But here's the thing. Again, you look at these offensive rankings. I mean, even with AR, they didn't blow any of the doors off anybody last year.
Exactly.
So we always romanticize these teams as what we believe them to be, of what they used to be, because that's how we remember them. We remember it's Aaron freaking Rodgers, right?
That's the problem. You think about what they used to be.
Right. They were plus 12 in turnovers. They're very much a defensive first team.
No doubt.
It is bend but not break. And you can say, rushing yards, maybe because they don't want to give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers because of who he used to be. I mean, again, and I agree with you. I still think he is very capable of winning a championship.
I've said this before, and I'll stick with it. He can win the next 2 Super Bowls, and I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think anybody else really would be either.
He's still a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think he is.
I think so.
The one part, and you and I have discussed this at length, right, is the one part to me is because of who he is and who he still is. Mm-hmm. Anything that doesn't strike me as an all-in move, I think can be seen at least in the short term, and it's admittedly in the short term, as a mistake, because you still have this window where he might not be old Aaron Rodgers, but he's still Aaron Rodgers, and I would still him over easily, 25, 26 quarterbacks in the league and not even worry about it.
Yep.
So I'm kind of critical in that way. But it just feels like he's getting slightly de-emphasized.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I just thought he was one of those guys that on a Green Bay team that, like you said, Ryan, might have some deficiencies here and there. That was the last position you thought that they were going to move up in the first round and try to get this guy. You want to get Jordan Love in the 3rd and 4th round? I got no problem with that at all. Our quarterback, I got no problem. To jump up to the 1st round just tells me a lot of teams, when they do that, are looking to reload right away. And like you said, Green Bay's not looking to reload right away. They're looking down the road. So why take this guy in the 1st round? I mean, they must have really saw something in Jordan Love that you mortgage out some stuff to get up to get him.
Yeah, you reading the stories, they didn't. You got to give it to some of the Packers writers and the guys who report on Green Bay. They're very secretive with this kind of stuff leading up to the draft. They're one of the better teams in the league, not leaking who they're going to take, because obviously there were rumblings that Green Bay was interested in Love, but no one would have thought they would have traded up to get him. But in the days following, even the hours following the pick, being that I follow everything Green Bay, the grades they had on this guy were like of a number 1 overall pick. And, the obvious is going to be they're going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. And, that's another thing that I hate. I hate when people compare him. Now. I mean, look, let's be honest. His skin tone's a little bit like Patrick Mahomes. He has some of the same abilities. I get it. But if I'm Jordan Love, I want to be, I want to closely resemble myself to be more of an Aaron Rodgers than I do a Patrick Mahomes right now.
Yeah,
because you're getting to learn under that man who was the original Patrick Mahomes. I think that they were so sold on him that it did not matter what it took. When I saw they traded up, I thought for sure here comes Mims or Higgins or one of those guys that was there. But
I think we set him up for high expectations too. I mean, the guy's never thrown in the NFL yet. I mean, and you're rating him with the guy like Mahomes who's won a Super Bowl already. So
yeah, he's listen, when he finally does start, and I'm of the belief that he's going to sit for 2 years, with Rodgers' contract being what it is in the not 2 seasons from now. So after the 2nd full season, there is an out there. So I'm of the belief that's when it happens. I wouldn't be shocked if, Rodgers has another so-so year that maybe they move him in a trade this offseason. But I still believe that he's going to be there 2 years. But that 3rd year, Jordan Love is not going to walk into something where there's low expectations, where it's okay. Yeah. If he only wins 6 or 7 games, he's going to be expected to walk in there, win the North, get to the playoffs, and win Super Bowls within his first couple of years, no doubt.
The only thing I would say before we get to the schedule is, and I don't disagree with you, I think that it is a fait accompli that he's going to go. The benefit to these first-round quarterbacks or the early quarterbacks is the fact that you pay them nothing or less than the market for their younger years. And then if he's only going to have a couple more years on that contract, then, I mean, that's a bit of a concern, I guess, from a cap standpoint, is you're not really maximizing. It didn't hurt them with Rodgers, don't get me wrong. But,
right.
I mean, I guess, deja vu. I've seen this before, and I don't know if that's the direction that we're going. Maybe for your case, I hope so. But
I hope so too.
If you look at the schedule, though, so that defense is going to be tested early. Their first 4 games before their bye week, 2 divisional games. And divisional games are always tough. They go to Minnesota, they host Detroit. The next 2 games are down in the NFC South. They go to New Orleans, and then they host Atlanta.
Wow, week 6 looks like a storm, like a nightmare.
Yeah. Coming off the bye.
I mean, look at this. Look at the early schedule, Brian. Like you said, I mean, Minnesota's offense is nothing to shrug your shoulders at. That's a good offense. Detroit, you don't know what you're going to get with them, but then you go to New Orleans with a top 5 offense. Atlanta's going to have a top 5, top 10 offense. Then they go to Tampa, Houston. It's one after the other after the other. This
first place schedule. It's a first
place schedule. Yeah,
yep. Exactly. This offense, this defense this year is really, really going to need to play better than they did last year. And I thought that they were fantastic last year. So
I think the benefit though of this schedule, Ryan, is their last 4 games. I mean, they're 3 out of 4 winnable games there. I mean, the only one you have trouble is Tennessee, but I think they beat Detroit, I think they beat Carolina, and they beat Chicago. Because Chicago's going to be out of it by then. So
they get 4 of their last 6 at home, which is nice. As it gets colder, which is when you don't want to go to Lambeau.
Yep.
So that I think is in their benefit, and really their road games. A dome, Florida, a dome, San Francisco, a dome.
Which, by the way,
whole game.
Every time Green Bay and San Francisco play in the regular season or the playoffs, it's in San Francisco. It's outrageous to me that these look it up. I mean, it's crazy. They go to San Francisco every time they play.
Well, there was one game that I cashed my bet in early because it was whoever that journeyman quarterback was that San Fran had the year that they got Bosa the next year. We're texting each other. I'm like, what the hell is your team doing? It's costing me money. What's your team doing?
They've always struggled against San Francisco.
Was that playing Gabreth?
No,
it was
Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins.
Yeah, Nick Mullins. Yep.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy. But this schedule, I still think they're the best team in the North. I still think that they're inside of Minnesota's head. I think Kirk Cousins sees ghosts when he plays Green Bay. I think Mike Zimmer sees ghosts when he plays Green Bay. It's just Aaron Rodgers finds a way to get it done against the NFC North, and I think they do that again. But you look at the rest of the schedule. I mean, in New Orleans, that's tough. Even home against Atlanta. Atlanta's another team that Green Bay historically struggles against.
I mean, I think. Sorry, Ron.
No, go ahead.
I said I think like you. I think they win the division. I think worst case scenario they go 10-6. Best case scenario 11-5.
Agreed. I have them at 11-5. But I would not be shocked in any way, shape, or form to see 10-6. I'll be honest with you. I could even see them falling to 9-7. Even at 9-7, if they were fall to 9-7, I think that division beat up on each other a little bit. And I think they're still going to win the division at 9-7. Yeah.
But even with the additional wild card, I think that helps a division like the North, where everything's a little bit tighter up top. Throw the Lions right out, which we'll talk about for whatever. But it really is kind of a 2-team race at the top. So I mean, again, you run a lot less risk. I mean, usually if you get 8 wins, I think you're going to get in the playoffs this year, I think in both conferences. So yeah, I mean, Green Bay is going to be a postseason team. Then it depends on where are the games. And I think they're a team that gets that home game a lot more. I think that they get helped by it just because it's Lambeau Field.
So. It's Lambeau Field. It's January. It's nobody wants to play there.
No.
In January. It's just very simple. You don't want to go to the Midwest to Green Bay, Wisconsin and play against that team. You just don't want to do it, especially a team that is no longer the finesse team of Packers teams of the past. Now you're looking at teams that are just going to ground and pound you. That's their game plan, man. They're gonna punch you in the mouth up front on defense. They're gonna punch you in the mouth up front on offense. They're going to run the ball 30 to 40 to 50 times a game, however many times it takes. And it's a different team. It really is. And I love it.
Here's my last question for you. And you brought up the running game. They drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. We're relatively high. I feel as though they're setting themselves up for 2 things. One, Aaron Jones is his last year of the deal, but then they're going to feed him the rock a lot, and I don't think he's going to get re-signed, personally. I also think simultaneously they're going to work their way out of Jamal because I think Dillon's more like him than he is Aaron Jones, and they'll just go readdress it in the draft.
Yep. Well, and if you've heard anything, you remember last year a kid named Tyler Irvin that came in last year and really did some good things for them. He's been thoroughly involved in the offense, from the words of a couple of the Packers writers. I think that you're going to see him almost take over for Jamal Williams at this point. And I'm a big fan of Jamal Williams. I love what he does. I love his personality, what he brings to the locker room. But I mean, at this point, you're looking at Aaron Jones, you're looking at A.J. Dillon, you're looking at Tyler Irvin, with Jamal being the odd man out. But again, I think, and we've talked about this a couple times, Brian, I don't see any way that Aaron Jones gets the contract that he deserves. The guy deserves a huge contract.
Yep.
He has done everything, but that's just not what Green Bay is going to do. They're going to offer him something. He's not going to accept it, and they're going to move on. It's going to be the A.J. Dillon, Tyler Irvin, and whoever else they draft coming up show.
Yep.
Right. So, what's Green Bay doing this year? Final question. They're going to win the Super Bowl?
They're winning the Super Bowl. Stop it. Of course they are. They're winning this one. And this is what's happening. They're going to win this one. They're going to win the next one. Then there's going to be some rumblings about Rodgers. He's going to leave and go wherever. And Jordan Love's going to win 3 in a row.
Right.
I'm going to celebrate 5 years straight.
It's a shame the Bucs got Brady for 2 years. They've not even won anything. So, you know.
I truthfully, I really do believe that. I mean, listen, the Seahawks are going to be tough. Clearly, the 49ers, I'm of the belief that they're going to take a huge step back. I think teams are going to look at film on them and they're going to say that quarterback hasn't gotten any better. He's the same guy he was. We're going to load the box, make him throw. We're going to play one-on-one on the outside. End of story. But I think that they are clearly one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. I think that this defense is going to take another step forward. I think that that Rodgers is going to have a little bit better of a year because there's even less pressure on him. And I think that they at least are the NFC representative this year. I'm not going to say they'll win the Super Bowl because the Chiefs and the Ravens over there are juggernauts, and they're going to be really tough to beat.
My last comment, Ryan, is there's a team in Florida that you shouldn't overlook.
Yeah, I'm not big on here. I'm not big on a 45-year-old quarterback and a guy and Gronkowski who was out of the league last year.
Listen.
He was the 24/7 champion for a good couple of months.
Yeah,
all right.
They keep him upright. Listen,
that's the problem.
Winston. So
that's the problem. And my whole thing about Tampa Bay is, and we've had this discussion, Brian and I, the reason that I'm not as high as other people is simply because of the division they're in. New Orleans is very good.
Yeah,
New Orleans always sleep on Atlanta. I don't know why people are sleeping on Atlanta. They still have that quarterback. They have all the weapens in the world. And the defense, it is, but they have a defensive head coach who can get the most out of them. And then, by the way, you have the Panthers, who you never know with them. They're a wild card. It's going to be a tough division. This ain't the AFC East anymore.
Right. Well, Hav, thank you for joining the show today. We appreciate that. Guys, if you like Hav, and we know that you do, he's on every Tuesday night right before us at 7 o'clock on Total Degenerates, which is probably the best name that we have for a show here on the Sports Box.
Ever best name.
Because it fits us perfectly. Thank you, guys.
You got it. Thank you. Green Bay Packers. I mean, listen, I hear what he's saying. And I've said this to him before. I don't like the fact that I could have used that pick on something to help me now. That's all. Like,
I agree.
You want to take Love? I'm okay with it. And you know what?
Second round, you're in the third or fourth round. You don't take a quarterback first pick where you're not even going to use him.
Yeah, we'll agree to disagree on that. But that's just he has to. I think he has to have that take.
Wait, sounds like a trend where you draft a guy in the first round, you're not going to use him. It kind of sounds like NFC East a little bit, like the second round. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next week.
That's next week. So we'll go from a team that Aaron Rodgers should have been the first overall pick to a team that had the first overall pick and did get themselves their quarterback in Joe Burrow, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Get them on. And
we're going to bring on our fan correspondent, Nate Bechtel. Nate, sir.
Welcome, Nate.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. Yeah, hey, Nate, I like the beard, man. Nice touch.
All right.
Very nice.
So we're going to get to some specs here, but what I remember the most about the Bengals is the fact that we were doing a draft show, and for reasons I can't seem to explain, they made me wait 15 goddamn minutes to take the guy everybody knew they were going to take anyway. I'm sitting here like, hello, What are you doing? We're
In
wasting time.
case they trade that pick, Brian. You know that every year it's
Oh,
the
they
same deal.
were never
Pick
traded.
was made much before.
In case somebody comes in and wows them, that's what happens.
Yeah, were they going to trade him? Tom Brady?
Yeah.
So we'll go through the Bengals from a year ago. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they got the number 1 pick, right? So these numbers aren't going to be that great. 2-14, they were in last place in the AFC North. Offensively, they were 30th in points, 26th in total yards, 22nd through the air, and 25th on the ground. Defensively, the 25th best defense, for what it's worth, 29th in yards, 21st in passing, just 32nd against the run. Couple additions on the cornerback side. Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander were brought in. They lost Tyler Eifert, and Cordy Glenn was cut. Now, Cordy Glenn was a guy they flipped first-round picks with Buffalo a couple years ago to bring him in. I was kind of surprised that they let him go, but I guess he hasn't really worked out. And obviously, with the number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, they take Joe Burrow, the quarterback out of LSU. Their over-under is 5.5 this year. So, Nate, listen, I mean, I had my questions coming into the draft about Burrow, not because I think he's going to be a bad player, and please don't think that, but I don't think that he is a risk-free pick the way we think sometimes these first overall picks are, because really his best year was his last year at LSU. He wasn't really, I think, on that top of the draft radar until the performance that he had last year.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think anybody was really thinking Joe Burrow number 1 until probably October last year. Sometime maybe mid-October, he started kind of torching it. I mean, he took off from the beginning, but I think he really caught national attention. The one-year wonder thing has always got to worry you. I mean, especially as a Bengals fan. Achilles Smith had one good season. Klingler had one good
Morgan,
season.
Yep.
PTSD, right?
Yeah, right, a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, you watch the guy. It's just it looks different. And I mean, you don't know what happened that got him to the point that he ended up at. I mean, I know he had the battle with Haskins and lost that. Meyer does favor a different type of quarterback than what Burrow typically brings to the table. So that one, a lot of people, there's a lot of Browns fans that I know are always talking about, he couldn't even cut it at Ohio State. But I don't know. I mean, the guy was damn impressive from what I've seen so far in camp. I mean, it seems like he's got it up here, and that really is kind of what matters. So. I'll take a cerebral guy all day. He reminds me in that way, and now I don't want to throw out the comparison. He reminds me in that way of Tom Brady. Control of the huddle, control of the line of scrimmage, and just smart. So
he's coming into the league, and as a rookie, he's going to have some bumps and some bumps along the way. He comes from LSU program that was phenomenal. I mean, they had an unbelievable season, and he had a good career while he was there. Do you think, even though he's a home state boy, he's from Ohio, and I think that's big for him too, is staying around Cincinnati and, where he grew up, like in the Bengals and stuff like that. Do you think that's going to overcome him going to a team that is predicted to win 3 games this year?
I think so. I mean, I think fan expectations are lukewarm at best. I mean, we just went through a horrible season. So, I mean, anything's going to be an improvement. Now, one of the things that we'll get into, we start talking a little bit about the defense, but I think it was 9 games last year were lost by 7 points or less.
Yeah.
I mean, a good quarterback comes in, and I don't want to say, I mean, I was always kind of a Dalton fan, but he wasn't a guy that was going to change a game. He was a guy that can come in and manage a game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Burrow's the kind of guy that can change a game. Now, granted, you say bumps and bruises, he's definitely going to take some licks behind that offensive line.
Yep.
But as far as, I mean, if we had Burrow last year and got some injury luck, then who knows what would have happened. I mean, that team was not on, you look at the stat line at the end, it looks like they were one of the worst. I mean, they were the worst team in the league. But 9 games by 7 points. I mean, just a couple of plays go the right way. That could end up being a 6, 7, 8 win season pretty easily.
What's the deal with the franchise tag for AJ Green? And I only ask that because, I mean, usually when you have a young quarterback, like, you are going through, for all intents and purposes, a rebuild. AJ Green is up there in age, and I don't know that he's going to be around when this team, if it all works out, that they get into a contention window. So I don't know, like what was it about? Because the other receivers I don't think are that bad. I think John Ross has underperformed his draft, where they took him. Tyler Boyd I like quite a bit. Why not move him? Like, why not get what you can for a guy who's probably not going to be there when you're ready to contend?
I think you want to put the best team around a young quarterback that you can. So I think bringing AJ back just makes sense. Honestly, I think the two sides are going to come to a deal. I think you're going to see a 3-year extension probably early next year. I think he'll finish his career in Cincinnati. But at the same time, I mean, they handled it I think pretty smart by drafting T. Higgins in the second round. Now, granted, that was kind of a gift. I didn't think that guy was going to last, but if he's drawing a comparison to a pro, he's not as lightning. He's not as quick as AJ Green, but he's got the body type. He's got the same type of game. So I think that is kind of the long-term, solution. Tyler Boyd's there for a long time. I mean, I'd say he's probably amongst the best number twos in the league. Mm-hmm. I would say he could maybe play one for some people, for some teams, but we saw what happened as a Bengals fan, saw what happened with Hushmanzada when he got the number one rolling. He was a great number two, couldn't cut it as a one. So
I think he should go up against top corners.
Right, exactly. I think I think he's in his niche. I think he's in a good spot. Ross, yeah, he has underperformed. He's been injured a lot. I think we saw at the very beginning of last year what he can do. I think through 3 weeks he was leading the league in receiving yards. So, he can be that Tyreek Hill type of player for your offense. But I think at the same time, you want to limit his exposure a little bit because, you see the speed of Tyreek Hill, you don't see the body. The guy's frail. So you limit him a little bit, get Higgins out there. I think the wide receiver room is exceptionally deep. All the way down to, Auden Tate, I think. He's having an incredible camp so far by all reports. So not that we're getting to see a lot of it because, obviously. Sure. No. But no, I think that's the good thing for Burrow is he's got a ton of weapons. And then you get over to the running backs room and I can't talk about Joe Mixon enough. The guy's a game changer. Right? He's about to be a very, very wealthy young man too. So I expect them to lock him up long term. Giovanni Bernard is the number two. We got a couple of young guys, back there too. The offense has weapons.
Sure.
It's just the big thing is going to be, is he going to have time to deliver the ball? So I think the big talk about the offense is, you got a rookie quarterback, you've got some unrest, you got a top-tier receiver, but he's been hurt a lot. So you got a lot of questions there, but the offensive line begs the most questions. Is Jonah, Williams going to come in and really solidify that line the way that they hoped a year ago when they took him number one? I think he could. I think he's solid. You got the younger guys getting some time. The biggest, probably one of the worst players on our starting, 22 is going to be Bobby Hart. And, not to take anything away. He's a professional athlete. He's pretty good. But by NFL standards, he should be a backup or a swing tackle. So there's a little battle going on with him and Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson started the last 2 or 3 games at left tackle last year and actually graded out pretty well. So I'm hoping, all ships rise with the tide. I'm hoping somebody comes out of that battle and actually gets it done. And Burrow just gets enough time to actually do some work back there.
Yeah. So like you talked about the offense. I think he's got some, good wide receivers. He's got some running backs there. It's going to help the young quarterback. The offensive line, they're going to have to improve on that next year in the draft. I think that's going to be kind of like a Buccaneers thing where they're going to go offensive line first in the draft, which is fine. They'll start building around Burrow, and I think that's fine. But like you said, I'm going to get to the defensive side of the ball. They were pretty bad last year on defense. They were kind of like Buck syndrome where they had secondary, left them hanging out to lunch sometimes. But this year they brought in some different guys from different teams to try to fill that void. So is there anybody in the secondary you see that can really step up and make them a little bit better this year?
Well, I was pretty excited about the Trey Wayne signing. I know he kind of underperformed in Minnesota, but I think he was going to get to do more what he's adept at in this defense, but he has a torn pec. So looks like he's going to maybe miss 2 months. So Mackenzie Alexander is going to have to step up. He was going to be the slot guy, but now he's probably going to get a little bit more time as a starter. Although I did just see today that it seems like there's some family issues going on. He had to step away from the team a little bit. So I don't know how long he's going to be gone. But they kind of rebuilt the entire secondary. Bringing in Waynes, bringing in Alexander, getting rid of Kirkpatrick and Denard, who were okay, but not great, for the offense or for the defense. I think Von Bell is probably going to be the biggest game changer that they brought in. And I know he's not the big name signing. The big signing was DJ Reader on the defensive line. But Von Bell, I'm a Buckeyes fan too, so a little bit of nepotism here. But Von Bell was, I think he's going to change the secondary quite a bit. He sets the tone. He's a guy who's always looking for the ball. So I expect the secondary to be a heck of a lot better, especially once Waynes gets back. I think the biggest change on defense and the reason we had so many problems last year was the linebacker room. It was terrible. Honestly, I would say our starting linebackers, I don't think any of the 3 of them would start for 28 other teams. So they, you talk about remaking a position group. literally, I think there's one guy. He just went down yesterday too. Jordan Evans, one guy that's back from that room last year. They drafted 3 linebackers in the draft. Loved the picks. When you got the one that stood out to me was Akeem Davis Gaither out of Appalachian State. I really liked that guy going in the 2nd or 3rd round, and all of a sudden he's there in 4. The Logan Wilson pick. You temper expectations coming from the Mountain West, but I mean, the guy was a tackle machine and he can cover. So I'm excited about that. And then I even like the Marcus Bailey pick from Purdue. So, remaking that room, bringing in Josh Bynes as a kind of a veteran to kind of steady things. And then you had Jermaine Pratt was a 3rd-round pick last year. So we got a lot of athleticism, some guys that can finally cover. That's been one of the biggest Achilles heels for the Bengals for years.
Oh, yeah.
You can't cover backs and tight ends. I mean, the linebackers just can't cover. They like the big guys that can stuff the run, even though they didn't do that last year. So, and then let's talk about how bad they were against the run last year. So obviously that's why you bring in DJ Reader. Get, hopefully, like I said, some injury luck this year. I haven't had that in a few years. But DJ Reader sets the tone, stops a healthier Geno Atkins. Maybe he doesn't have to play as much. Got some depth there. I expect a big turn. I mean, I'm by no means am I thinking this is a 10-win team. I mean, we're rebuilding. But it's one of those teams that, honestly, if you're going to ask me later, I would say between 3 and 9 wins. I mean, it's a huge.
It was a 2-14 year, so I guess it's kind of a loaded question. But it was the first year, I think, since dinosaurs roamed the earth that Marvin Lewis was not on the sideline for the Bengals. So Zach Taylor entering year 2, it took him a while to get his first win. And again, like I said, it's a 2-14 season. But what did you see from him that kind of gives you some bullishness moving forward? With just a change of direction that the team's probably needed for a very long time.
Yeah, it's almost like a youth movement. It's the guys seem to be responding to it. Seems, I mean, he's definitely got that players coach thing going on. Lewis did to an extent, but he also got walked all over. I don't feel like Zach Taylor's that guy. I like the idea of everybody went that route last year, right? At Green Bay, we did it. Everybody wanted the young, innovative, offensive guy, the next Sean McVay. Obviously, we didn't. I mean, nobody's going to get that. You got one of those that come around every once in a lifetime. But I like the innovation. I like the youth. I like the player. I mean, everything you read is the players are behind the guy, and that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm. I will load up the schedule here, so we'll take a look at that, and there we go. Like when things work. All right. So to start off, I do think they have some winnable games. I don't think there's any reason they can't be 2-0 going into Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason they can't be 3-1 coming out of Jacksonville. So it's a advantageous beginning. And I think playing the NFC East is helpful because there's really only 2 relevant teams there, in my personal opinion. But there are tough stretches. I mean, divisional games are always tough, but you got Baltimore and Indy back-to-back on the road. That doesn't help them at all.
You got 4 before the bye week. You got Baltimore, Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Tennessee going into the bye week. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a rough stretch.
But they can put 3 wins together between week 11 and 13, but against Washington, the Giants, and the Dolphins. Those are all winnable games for a young team. I think, and really, I guess I'm curious your thoughts on this one, Nate. I think if Burrow comes out and plays well those first 2 games, I mean, that could really be a confidence builder for him the rest of the year. And I think that's why maybe it's helpful, not just to get that first game at home, but the fact that even the second game, you're still in Ohio. You're not really going anywhere.
I was just going to say that.
It's not like it's a Thursday night game. Like you're not going to Lambeau Field. You're not, ended up in a hard place to play.
Right. No, but you're bringing in, and sorry, Nate, but you're bringing in people from Ohio. You're bringing your fan base in, some of your family, and you're playing on the road in your first away game. I mean, that's going to be big for him. He steps up, wins that game in Cleveland. Man, Nate, you got really something to look forward to. He wins that game in Cleveland.
Agreed.
So
I'm going to say the way the schedule plays out, I mean, it definitely helps that we sucked last year because it gives us a little bit of schedule. So yeah. I mean, still definitely some tough teams. I mean, we're in a tough division. I don't think it's as tough as most years. I think it's Baltimore and then 3 other teams right now. So I'm not nearly as bullish on, as people are on the Browns. It's the last 2 years now. They're like Super Bowl contenders on paper, but they can't put it together. So I'm not figuring.
Hey,
that.
Listen, It's on video. I drank that Kool-Aid last year. I thought they were going to win the division. So I'm not.
We both did.
Egg on my face. Many eggs, actually. So,
yeah.
I are you looking for them to be a winning team this year, or do you think that maybe having a year where they win 3 or 4 games and Burrow plays well helps them with another high pick into the future?
I think you can't discount that. I mean, I can't remember the guy's name. It's hard to say. It's like Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. I would not hate getting a hold of that kid. He looks like he's going to be like the next, I don't know. Next big thing at left tackle. But for me, I think anything 6 or more is considered. I would consider a successful season. I mean, if they win 6 or more games, I could definitely see an 8-8 season. Like I said, anything between 3 and 9 wins. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see a 9-7 team finish second in the division and sneak in. What are they doing? 7 teams now in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Into that 7th slot. I mean, honestly, the team was far worse in 2011 when Dalton came in with AJ Green and they made the playoffs. And nobody expected it. And that was after a 2-14 season. So it wouldn't completely be unprecedented, but I'm not expecting it.
Now,
well, Nate, I'll tell you this as a Bucks fan, I always tell Brian this, and I don't know if he agreed with me or not, but I always say I want my team to do well, but as long as the team's moving the needle forward, that's what you want to look for. And I think the Bengals, if they can win 5 or 6 this year, although they're not going to be an 8-8 team like you're thinking, 5 and 6 is a big step for them because you're almost winning 3 times as many as you did last year, even with the injuries you had and with a rookie quarterback. So I think that should maybe be the needle 5 or 6 right around there. They went 5 or 6. Things are headed up for Cincinnati.
I would agree. And as long as 4 of those are Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Yeah.
But Mike, I would counter that by saying I don't think anything moved the needle more forward than being the first pick in the draft and getting the quarterback. Because until you have that position solidified, and let's hope that they do, everything else doesn't even matter. I mean, now that they have that, now you can start talking about what this future could look like because
now you build on that. This year, like we said, they get a low pick again. I mean, not that they're going to be bottom 3, but if they're in the top 10, obviously they can get that offensive tackle, offensive guard, start building around Joe Burrow, keeping him upright, getting more confidence for him with this team, and sky's the limit after that. You're going to keep moving up the charts.
Imagine though, Nate, if they get the 1 pick again, just humor me, right? And some team just blows you over to get 1 to go get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that's a franchise builder. We're talking about Herschel Walker and what that did for the Cowboys, like that built a dynasty. And you've seen, obviously the Bengals got there on their own, but you've seen what teams have paid to go up to get a quarterback when they need one. And so many teams need one. I'm just saying, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, given this crazy year that we're in, that they end up with a pick that valuable, that just sets up the next 10 years.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That would be crazy. But I will give you a quick hot take on that. Talking about Trevor Lawrence, I would rather have the number 1 pick in 2020 than in 2021. So I haven't seen what we saw last year. I'd take Burrow over Lawrence.
That's fair. I asked that question following the national title game, and I think that people were kind of split on it because Burrow had this great year and Lawrence didn't really. I mean, don't get me, it's still fine. He's still going to be a good quarterback, but
Burrow just looks like he's got that sense he can get out of stuff and he can move around and he kind of knows everything that's going on the field. Not to say Lawrence doesn't know that either, but it just seems like Burrow's made to play football, made to be a quarterback right now.
Made to play.
Change in the first year with the Bengals, who knows? But
yeah, like you won't crumble in the big moments, and Bengals fans have not seen that in a long time.
He's tasted winning. Let's see if he can keep it going. So,
when the Cowboys bench Dak Prescott, I will have you on again so we can talk like an hour.
Like I said, the guy is not a big moment guy. So.
Understood.
I wish I had some Bengals. I would have been back on in the Bucks. So,
Dak Prescott. But Nate, listen, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much for taking some time with us. News breaks throughout the year. We'll have you back on, talk a little Bengals. And again, I think that it's an interesting team because you want to see this kid quarterback do very well, and you want to see where this team can go. Again, for me, I don't think there's any outcome you could be upset with this year. I really don't, because I think either way it's productive. Either you get a high pick that you can use or trade, or you've got your guy and guys around and play well, and then you get really excited for the year after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Nate, thanks, pal. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye.
They're in a really good spot, right? Because again, if they win, great, because now you've got a quarterback. If they lose, great. Now you've got a high pick to get more around that quarterback. So
I think definitely you got to go out like the Bucs did. You got to go offensive line this year because you got to protect your investment. I mean, that's just my thinking. You're going to pay that much for a quarterback. You got to start not only building around him, you got to protect him.
Sure.
And the Bucs did a terrible job with Winston protecting him. So that could have faulted his growth too.
But Mike, you got to listen. Just again, the wheels fall off if the defense does not play well, but he plays well. I think that's all you really care about.
Oh, you want to, definitely your first round pick. You want to see move the needle forward, and a guy like first overall pick, you definitely want to see some progress.
Absolutely,
for sure.
We will go back to the NFC North and talk about the Minnesota Vikings, who, Mike, they're a really interesting team because of a couple of things that they did in the offseason. So Minnesota was 10-6 last year. They were second place in the North. They lost the divisional round to the 49ers. They had the 8th most points in the league, 16th best yardage offense. Just 23rd, though, through the air. 6th on the ground, though. We're going to talk about that.
And you saw a big move that did that. But go ahead.
We'll talk about fifth best defense against scoring. 14th on the with yardage, 15th through the air, 13th through the ground. They added Michael Pierce on the D-line, but a lot of guys aren't there anymore. A lot of guys who have been heart and soul at defense for a couple years are not there anymore. A guy like Trey Waynes, who got hurt, but he went to the Bengals. Evers and Griffin ended up in Dallas. Xavier Rhodes, who I've always been a fan of. I believe he's in Indianapolis now. They lost Mackenzie Alexander. But the big name, obviously, is Stephon Diggs, who was traded to Buffalo for a first-round pick. Kind of something that I think we all kind of thought was going to happen because that didn't really seem like they were a long-term marriage candidate. So with the 2 first-round picks, with the pick they got from Buffalo, Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from LSU, was taken there, obviously, to be Diggs' replacement. And then they took a guy, Jeff Gladney, at 31, who I think could have gone a little higher, but they addressed a corner need because they lost some corners like Trey Wayne, like Xavier Rhodes in the offseason. So over-under's 9 for this 10-win team from a year ago. Here's what I think is interesting, all right? You're paying Kirk Cousins all of this goddamn money, and you have receivers like
for years. Like, go ahead.
Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, and you have the 23rd ranked passing offense in the NFL. Why?
He's not spreading the ball out. You see that during the year. That's just you see Diggs like almost every other play getting upset and mad that he's not getting balls. Not that he should get every ball, but he's open certain times and he's not getting the ball thrown to him.
But who do you blame for that? Like, and again, he's not there anymore, so there's some validity to that. But who do you blame for that? Is that a Zimmer problem? Is that a Cousins problem? Is that a Diggs problem? I mean,
I think it's a little bit of both of Zimmer and the quarterback. Just because they're I wouldn't say they got the total reins off him to do what he wants, but there's some of his decisions he's making out there. So, and by the way, the Kyle Rudolph, he's still pushed off. But Zimmer, I think what's that?
Saints is what it is.
Yeah, well, whatever. What's him? So I think Zimmer too, with his offense the way it is. It could have been a little bit of him too, but that is, you look at it from afar and you hear that they're in the 20s in passing, and they got 2 guys like that are, fantasy monsters and really top 20 players in the league. It's really hard to believe.
My concern for this team offensively from the wide receiver position specifically is you take Diggs out, you throw Justin Jefferson in. We always talk about this idea of, when you have 2 receivers, the corners have to account for both. I guess Thielen was the one by default last year, but I don't think Justin Jefferson, again, as a rookie receiver, is going to have the kind of defensive game playing against him that Stephon Diggs did. So now you have Thielen without Diggs, and you're hoping that a guy like Jefferson, falls into it. But at the same time, rookie receiver. So I think it's a lot to ask to basically pick up Stephon Diggs and then drop in Justin Jefferson and think you're not going to skip a beat.
Well, you flip the script now, because in the first part it was Diggs as pretty much you think technically the one, and you want to say Thielen backs him up and gets a lot of the balls that when Diggs is covered goes to Thielen. Well, now it's the opposite way around. So now Jefferson turns into Thielen and gets balls when they're not thrown to Thielen because Thielen is going to get number 1 coverage now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to turn out. You're going to get a lot of pressure on this kid Jefferson to come in and take the place of a guy who was a Pro Bowler and a really good wide receiver. So, I hope the playbook is kind to them, and I hope they can get the tight end more involved in the plays because that's a lot of pressure to put on Jefferson.
They put a high pick in Irv Smith and haven't really used him that well. Yeah. So curious to see how that pans out. But I think here's the thing for me, right? Newsflash. I'm not gonna use the breaking news, but newsflash.
Hot take.
I don't think you should pay running backs. I may have said that once or 500 times.
Get out of here.
So here's the problem, right? Dalvin Cook wants a new deal. Dalvin Cook said he wasn't going to come to camp. Now he's going to come to camp.
Yep.
Wants a new deal. So you look back last year, and Dalvin Cook got 4.5 yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know what Madison had?
Like 3.5 or 3?
4.6.
Okay.
So listen, we say this, lather, rinse, repeat with these guys. It is not hard to get production out of the running back without having to pay a huge contract.
But I will say this. I will say Madison had less carries than Cook.
Sure. No.
So that's probably the difference. If you want Madison carried over a full year, that number is going to drop down.
That is maybe. Maybe it'll drop down. And I agree with you that it likely could. Okay.
You don't know. Right.
It drops to 4.2, right?
Right.
Does that mean it's worth me giving all this money to Dalvin Cook? The answer to me is no. It's the same situation Green Bay is in with Aaron Jones. I don't want to pay these guys.
Right. But
I need that money for other things.
Right. But if he on a team like Minnesota, I think Cook becomes valuable because he ran the ball a lot like he did last year and is a power runner. If you have somebody you got your eye on in the draft in the first round, you want to bring in, then I got no problem. Then you get rid of Cook and bringing a guy in and taking a roll on him. Because Minnesota, listen, they're going to have to roll the dice soon and start going with youth. They Cook is a young guy, obviously, but I'm saying overhauling a little bit of the team structure. I'm not as bullish as you are on running backs. I think Cook is a good fit in Minnesota.
But running backs, I think historically are one of the positions where you pay for what they've done versus what they're going to do.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that it behooves them to give him the money. I think the money can be used elsewhere. My personal opinion. I think that we may be seeing the final season of Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. And if I'm a Vikings fan, throw Madison in there.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Second place schedule for Minnesota.
It is. And it's really
a rough schedule.
It ain't easy. So they open up against Green Bay. Those games are always tough. They go to the Colts. They host Tennessee. Tennessee's like a Minnesota light in a way.
Yep. Should win that. At Houston should win that.
Winnable game.
Yeah.
Go to Seattle.
Loss.
Hosting Atlanta. At Green Bay out of the bye.
You look at maybe 2 wins in their first 6.
I mean, look, they're going to win week 14. I'm sorry. Anyway, but the point is, they got it in a tight division.
Yeah,
right? They got to get to the bye at no less than 4-2.
4-2. Yeah,
and I don't know. And the Green Bay game is immense. Like that could be a launching pad for this team.
Yeah.
But again, I look at the games. Tennessee's going to be a tough game for them. Indy's going to be a tough game for them.
And listen, you got to win 4 of those games and some are and split are on the road. I mean, you're going to have to win. I think you can possibly win in Indy. You'll win at Houston, and you could probably win against Atlanta.
You can be 3-3 if you beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
But you can't be 3-3 if you don't beat Green Bay in the first game, because then the second game is at Lambeau out of the byes. Well, I don't know what Green Bay's got before that game. It's just not. It's not. It's not easy.
Well, I mean, no, it's not easy. But you can. Like I said, the Colts, Texans, and Falcons. I think you can beat. So
the games against now they got 3 home games in a row.
Yeah,
November and December. The games against Carolina and Jacksonville are absolute must-win games, no question about it. And this Minnesota team has been prone to less than subpar efforts in games that they need to win.
But then in week 14, the Bucs are going to need that game to
probably.
So that, and
the Bears are gonna. They got 3 last 4 in the road. The Bears are gonna need that game for something. New Orleans gonna need that game for something. Like there's no stretch where you can say you can take your foot off the gas with this team.
No.
And the over under was 9. I think that's right on, and I think that might be bullish.
Yeah, I like 8. I like the under a little bit on there because that's a tough schedule, like you said. There's a lot of games in there that, especially down the stretch, that teams are going to need. So Minnesota could be in trouble with this schedule. So.
I mean, again, I think they get in the playoffs for the simple reason that you have that additional playoff spot, and I think that Minnesota is a team that could be helped.
Yep, by that. Agreed. I think they're in division 9 and 7, 8.
I think it's hard to ask them to be more than that, and I know that they're a better team than last year. That offense has to show me something because, again, I think you're in Dalvin Cook's last year, respectfully, and they blew Diggs out of there for a younger guy. Okay, cap control.
He took a step back at wide receiver. So.
Yeah. So next up, we have our boy Tim King from All Everything Entertainment coming on to talk a little Bears with us.
That's it. Let's
Tim
do
King,
it.
welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up, Tim?
Bears.
Oh, jeez.
I was told
boys?
to tag
for having me.
What's up?
Hey, what is
You
it?
got
Like,
it.
is it like a mic thing with the sports box? You guys are like losing half of yourselves, man. You look fantastic. Great job, man.
I gotta praise Brian for this. Brian really is a graphic guru, so he's really gotten us off the ground with that. So hats off to Brian.
Oh,
And again, I just
call him.
as I bring Tim on, All Everything Entertainment's good friends of ours. We support them all the full way. Check those guys out. A lot of great content all the time. I can't say enough good things about the team they have going there. It's one of the best parts about doing this has been, the people that we've met and gotten friendly with. So, and Tim and the group are right up there. So absolutely. We appreciate you coming on, talk a little Bears with us. We'll see if you feel the same when the time we're done talking Bears. See how it goes. So the Chicago Bears, they were 8-8 a year ago. They were the same old Bears, and I'll tell you why. Because offense was god awful. They were the 29th most points in the league, the 29th best offense, the 25th through the air, 27th on the ground. And it's just like it never changes. And they probably have something powerful in there to make you forget about it. But then defensively, they're exactly who they've always been. They've been the 4th best against the pass, 8th best in total defense, 9th against the pass, 9th against the run. Couple big-time additions. They brought in Nick Foles, quarterback from Jacksonville, who I maintain signed the worst free agent deal in the history of football when he signed in Jacksonville, and obviously he's not there anymore, so that lends credence to that.
Yeah. Well, for him, he got $88 million, so good for him.
Hey, secure the bag, right? Defensive end Robert Quinn, former Cowboy, and the former Ram was brought in, who I think is going to be a nice addition for them. Jimmy Graham fills their quota for dead people, so he's obviously going to be fine. They have like
Jimmy Graham fan, obviously.
You'll probably forget about him somewhere in there. They lost Prince Amukamara. They lost Taylor Gabriel. Got rid of Leonard Floyd, who unfortunately didn't work out. He was a first-round pick as well. And then Clinton Dix, I think, was there for a year and has moved on to Dallas for better or for worse. No first-round pick from the Khalil Mack deal. They did take a couple guys in a second. Cole Kmet, the tight end from Notre Dame, and Jalen Johnson, the corner out of Utah. Over/under is 8 games. So, Tim, like I said, it just feels like I'm in Groundhog Day because, again, elite defense, awful offense. And I don't know how you fix it because they tried to fix it with a draft pick that I'm not going to belabor because we've been down that road a million times. It hasn't worked out. But I don't know what else you do. I mean, they have offensive play. They have talented guys in skilled positions. I like Allen Robinson quite a bit. I think he can do fine. I like their running game quite a bit. I think they have tight ends to throw to. I'm higher on Anthony Miller than most, but it just doesn't ever seem to materialize.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that encompass what you just said. First and foremost, as we know, it all starts with the quarterback. As we all know, Ryan Pace in his first year absolutely botched the quarterback.
Oh,
so he's been trying. Well, I guess it wasn't his first year; it was his second year because he botched the wide receiver the year before because for whatever reason he decided to take a wide receiver in the top 10 who's no longer in the league. Mind you, 5 years later. Then you go and you take Mitch, and we all know where that got us. Anyone in the world who watches football would have told you Deshaun Watson was that draft pick. And if you weren't taking a quarterback, which you should have because there were 3 of them, it was Jamal Adams. So whether it was Watson or whether it was Adams, you don't go wrong with that draft pick.
Well,
That
Tim,
goes-
you got to throw in as well that they got bamboozled by San Francisco
Oh my God.
in moving up when they weren't changing their pick. Lynch just did a great job throwing one over on them and getting extra something from them to move up.
They were bidding against themselves. Like it's that simple. They literally, it's like when you're playing auction fantasy football or fab fantasy football, and you're sitting there. It's like an hour before, and you're like, shit. Do I put $8? Do I put 19? Do I put 11? And it's like you work yourself in your head, and I guess that's what Pace did. Yeah. And he got a guy who started 11 career college games instead of a guy who won the national title and beat the best NFL-ready defense. But again, as you said, Brian, we could talk about that for days. So moving into what happened last year off of 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had a weak schedule. Mitch played damn well, and our defense was incredible. What happened last year, even with those defensive numbers, if you watched 2 seasons ago, we were in the end zone on defense all day. Yeah. If you look at fantasy football numbers for defenses, our defense was putting up as much as quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. It was crazy. So we knew that wouldn't carry over into next year. But again, it's Ryan Pace's fault that it didn't carry over because of what reason? The guy he drafted again in the top 10, Leonard Floyd, can't perform his job, okay? So you traded all those picks for Khalil Mack, which I still think we won that trade. By far and away, we won that trade. Because if you look at what Oakland got, we can go back and forth, but Khalil Mack is by far and away the better player. So you got Khalil Mack, who's getting doubled and triple teamed now because Akeem Hicks is hurt on the inside, which absolutely kills Mack on the outside. And then Leonard Floyd on the other side, he got 2 sacks in game 1. You know how many sacks he finished with? And he played 16 games. 2. He started the year with 2. He finished with 2. All right. There's a big reason why he's on the Rams right now and why we brought in Robert Quinn from Dallas. Now, you guys had a very similar situation where DeMarcus Lawrence, I believe, didn't have a sack last year, correct?
He struggled.
Right.
He was getting doubled, and Quinn was the beneficiary, put up good numbers. But again, sometimes you need that. You can be an effective defensive end if you're looking up the other guy. Again, the goal is that somebody gets to the quarterback.
No, right. So if you got the guy on one side getting triple team, please, for the love of God, Floyd, get to the damn quarterback. But he couldn't do that, all right? And Robert Quinn in Dallas did that. So theoretically speaking, with a healthy Akeem Hicks and Robert Quinn on the outside, opposite to Mack should be free to contend for Defensive Player of the Year again, which makes the whole team better because we're forcing more turnovers. We're sacking the quarterback, and that alleviates the offense. Now, offensively last year, what we got away from was running the football. We got rid of Jordan Howard, which I still didn't understand because, he only commands $5 million. I could go on what you guys were talking about with Minnesota and Dalvin Cook all day. Like I could deep dive into that, and I'll just say, Brian, you're spot on. Dalvin, bye. It's not who's doing the ball carrying. It's the matter of snapping the ball, turning it around, and handing it to the fucking running back. All right. It's that simple. And Nagy didn't do that last year. When he actually ran Montgomery played fine. The problem is he didn't run the ball last year. I don't know why he thinks Mitch is some sort of superstar with his arm, but he's not.
But how much is it because you think coaches and GMs, they get married to guys, and it's like they try so hard because they want this to work out. How many chances, Mike? Jameis over and over again kept getting opportunities. Mariota go again because you don't want to be wrong.
Right.
Because if you're wrong, you're probably going to be fired.
You put a lot in that pick and you don't want it to fail. So you'll do whatever you can and spoon feed the guy and give him opportunity after opportunity, just like they're doing with Trubisky right now. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I guess a lot of people knew this kid coming out of North Carolina especially had a really good year, but he only played a certain amount of games.
Yep.
How do you move up? And tout him as one of the best quarterbacks in that draft when he hasn't proven himself for even a full season in college. And that's what the scary thing was.
I don't like drafting football players from basketball schools. I just don't.
No.
Right. I'm a USC guy. I like you.
And the reason that Ryan Pace took him was because Mitch drove to meet Pace in his broken down car with his suitcase in the front seat. And Ryan Pace was like, oh, holy shit, this guy is just like me coming out of college. Like, this is my buddy. No, dude, you don't take your buddy. You go and take Deshaun Watson, who's the best player in the draft, all right? And obviously, that's before we're talking about Mahomes, all right?
Yeah.
No one knew what Mahomes was going to do. And I'm the biggest Patrick Mahomes fan in the world. But situation in the NFL is everything. If Pat Mahomes got drafted to the Bears where John Fox was his head coach, do you think we know who Pat Mahomes is?
Right. No, I completely agree. I mean, Wentz to Cleveland. I don't think it's got to be the right fit.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a story, actually. It's a Ranger story because I'm talking about this driving in a beat up car. Brian Trottier was a Hall of Famer from the Islanders, and he applied to be coach of the Rangers. He applied for the job. And Glenn Sather, who was a senile GM at the time, Trottier wrote this 10-page handwritten plan. And Glenn was so enamored that he hand wrote it that he gave him the job, which was idiotic.
Man,
It's
so rough, man.
Yeah. So Tim, my question was about the quarterback situation. Now, obviously, we talk about Mitch Trubisky and the year he had, and a couple years, and he doesn't look like he's panning out to be that guy. So now you spend a number one pick in Trubisky, and like we just said, they don't want to be wrong about it. You brought in Nick Foles guy in, who me and Brian have talked in length about when he was with Philadelphia. The stars aligned, the moons aligned, and they won a Super Bowl, but he played half a season with them. Went down to Jacksonville, got hurt, was supposed to take the reins, terrible contract. He's out of there, goes to Chicago. So as it reads right now, the Chicago Bears quarterback roster includes Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Tyler Bray. So out of those three, if we don't like Trubisky, obviously we think he's going in the wrong direction. Nick Foles, who the heck knows how he's going to command this team and, play an entire season and do what he did. Who are we happy with starting the year and moving forward with right now?
So, unfortunately, that's a really jaded question because the first question that I want to ask, I always retort with is this. How many games did Nick Foles win outside of an Eagles uniform? Both times. He went to the Rams. Sucked, but again,
he's going to retire with the Chiefs. Yeah.
Not many quarterbacks are good under Jeff Fisher. The Chiefs, he wasn't very good. He was putrid in Jacksonville last year.
Yeah.
And granted, they literally didn't have a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, or a running game, even though Fournette's there. But he was putrid in his time played there.
Yeah.
So I would say that, sure, I'd be excited about Foles. He knows him and Nagy are close. He knows Nagy's system. The West Coast offense, this run-pass offense, the RPO-based offense, fits him like a glove. We have David Montgomery, who they should run the ball to 300 times this year, and I'm not exaggerating. Turn around and give him 306 carries this year, all right? You got Cohen, which, again, was the problem last year because he tried doing everything in his power to get Cohen into the running game or into the offensive game plan, and that threw things off. Cohen, right, like Anthony just said, perfect segue. Thanks, bro. He needs to go and just play the slot receiver. Nagy needs to get away from doing all the cute shit on offense. So he needs to get back to turning around, handing the ball to Montgomery. The offensive line should be fine. You got Allen Robinson. You got Anthony Miller. Hate on Jimmy Graham all that you want to. And the big thing with the Bears was they got 18 tight ends. And I said at nauseum, Adam Shaheen will be gone by the time the season starts. Where is Adam Shaheen? He's gone. All right. Going into the season, we'll carry 4 tight ends. We don't carry a fullback. So carrying 4 tight ends is normal. We'll carry Graham. We'll carry Komet. And then there's I forgot the kid's name, but there's another kid who has a big-time potential as a receiving option. So those are the 4 we'll carry. But Jimmy Graham, for whether it's Foles or Mitch, will be a nice little security blanket. I don't expect him to put up 10 touchdowns and 800 yards. He catches 400 yards and 6 touchdowns, and I think we got what we got out of Jimmy Graham. But right now, everything that we are hearing around here is how, like Josh just said, is how great Mitch has looked right now. Now, again, it doesn't matter how good a guy looks when you're not in pads, right? And when I heard Mitch on the radio. He did an interview about a month ago. No, it was actually about 2 months ago now. But what concerned me was, they said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I have a home gym. I'm playing video games. I'm hanging out." He didn't say
everything you want to hear.
Right. I'm working out. I'm trying to get better. I'm doing this.
You want the Peyton Manning answer, not the Ryan Leaf answer, right?
What is the one thing you want to hear?
Yeah.
I've been reading the playbook. I've been watching film. Yeah. He didn't mention the playbook. He didn't mention film. No. So to me, no matter how well Mitch plays, I feel like that trade was orchestrated to bring Foles in. But again, Pace is going to want to not fail because his tenure rides with Mitch. So as I started 5 minutes ago by talking and saying it's jaded, 5 minutes later, I still don't have an answer. Yeah. I don't know. If it was me personally, I'm not there watching. So I don't know the rapport that Foles has got with Allen Robinson or the rapport that Foles has with Anthony Miller. I mean, Anthony Miller, the last 6 games of the season last year, looked pretty damn good. And we know what Allen Robinson can do with his hands. But as a Bears fan, it sucks, man. We talked about it, or they talked about it on Game-Winning Drive last night. If Aaron Rodgers was on and you can say it about a lot of teams, but literally, if Aaron Rodgers was on the Cleveland Browns or the Chicago Bears, the way those two rosters are set up, those are Super Bowl contenders right away.
Well, you might get your wish in a year or two. So,
and the sad thing about that is, by then, Khalil Mack's going to be forcing his way back out of town. Yeah. And it's just going to be cyclical because he's going to be sick of losing.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because that's one goes to one of my. Well, I had like 3 questions here. One was, and I think I know the answer to all 3. I asked who needs to go, Nagy or Pace. You're going to say both. I think it's fair. Who starts, Mitch or Nick? You're not really sure yet. I understand that too. Mm-hmm. But the question that you just brought up is, how long can this defense stay elite and give the Bears time to fix the offense when they're not really fixing the offense? I mean, at some point, time catch up to everybody. And they're not going to be able to just keep bringing in great defensive players. They didn't really miss Fangio at all, which was kind of surprising to me. Maybe not. But, at some point, you have to have something. I mean, the defense is just carrying this team. And, I'm waiting for a mutiny. Give us something.
Well, the concerning part is the Bears before would not address the offense. They have addressed the offense in waves, man. Yeah. They have spent at quarterback. They have spent at receiver. They have traded up. They went out and brought in Allen Robinson. They traded up for Anthony Miller. You can say what you want about Jimmy Graham, but they paid the guy $18 or $16 million. So it's not like they're not spending. It all falls on one guy. And actually, it all falls on 2 guys because Nagy's playbook last year sucked. And we can argue all day. I argued with Streets all day. Nagy, Mitch. And I'm not a Mitch defender by any means. But that playbook sucked. All right. Your quarterback can't hit anybody. So take the ball out of his hands and run the football. Instead, he's throwing the ball 68, 70% of the time. It's like, dude, you're not trailing big in these games to where you have to throw. Turn around and run. And how do you set play action up? Even if the run isn't effective, you got to run the football in the NFL if you don't have a quarterback. So my answer is this. I would get rid of as a Bears fan, we had Jerry Angelo. He couldn't draft anything. Urlacher and Tommy Harris were his only good picks. And you could first-round picks, I'm sorry. He had great success second round and later. But as far as first round goes, Angelo, horrible. We replace him finally, bring Phil Emery in. Horrible. He was worse than Angelo. Bring in Pace, not as bad as Phil Emery, but still not one good first-round draft pick. Now, you could say that Mack is the pick for the last 2 years, which is fine.
Fine. But
Mack, Eddie Jackson, Akeem Hicks, I mean, it's all on the defense again because he screwed up at quarterback. Right. So at the end of the day, it's all 3 of them, Nagy, Pace, Mitch. They all got to go. I wish that we were tanking for Trevor. But the problem with the Bears is the top of the organization. Virginia McCaskey needs to find her way below earth. And that's putting it very nicely because I'm not. I'm on the Sports Box Network, so I'm going to keep it as clean as I can. So she needs to find her way down there. Okay. Her sons need to then sell the team. That idiot, Michael McCaskey, it just, all of them.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, the organization is a wasteland. They have me yearning for Lovey, all right? I wanted Lovey gone because he couldn't in-game manage and we'd never win a Super Bowl with him. I yearn for Lovey since he's been gone. It's been like 10 years.
So basically this is your mindset.
Justin Thomas, after his excellent approach shot, ran all the way toward the back of the green for birdie.
Dude, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Well,
You know what, Tim? I had Brian keep that same take. I said, we're going to need that again one day.
I found
it. Love it. Yo, that's exactly. For me as a fan, I'm very opinionated. I'm highly opinionated.
That's fine for you.
All right.
Hey, Brian, can I get the breaking news? Because I have breaking news.
You have breaking news?
I do. I have breaking news.
Like real breaking news or like what you think is breaking news?
I have breaking news for Tim.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
Folks, Mitch Trubisky has just called in. He's won the Super Bowl on Madden 25. So he's played a whole season with the Bears, folks. He won the Super Bowl. Beautiful.
It'll be the only way he could win the Super Bowl.
Was it on easy? Was it on rookie mode?
Sports Box. So.
But for that question you guys asked, if it was a perfect world for me, Mitch is our starting quarterback this year. Mitch is playing lights out football. And, that's just kind of how it just took him 5 years to step in, which isn't far-fetched when you consider his first head coach was John Fox and his first offensive coordinator was Dow Logans. And we used to make a joke what Dow Logans was, what used to come out of our ass and fall into the toilet, all right?
They were keeping it as a family show tonight, Tim.
No, we're good. We're good. Comment was coming in from the outside the box viewing party. From Michael Bradley. Mitch is the kind of guy who can extend plays. Nagy went away from everything he did Mitch's rookie year. O-line was incompetent, I believe. Didn't run the ball efficiently, and the loss of Trey Burton hurt as well.
I'm glad Trey Burton's gone now. Last year it hurt, sure, but that dude can't stay on the field.
My favorite, I'm just reminded of it. I ran a poll one time of who was the Bears' best quarterback on the roster. Was it Trey Burton or Mitch Trubisky? And Trey Burton actually was leading that for quite a while.
Well, I love that Bears fans wanted Chase Daniel so bad. Last year, Chase Daniel came in. He was good for like a half a game, and then they were like, "Oh boy, give us
second coming."
My God.
Who was the who was the tight end for the Bears that wrecked his knee?
Oh, dude, it was Zach Miller. That was
awful.
Dude, almost crazily. I don't know how, almost killed Alex Smith, almost killed him, man.
Yeah.
Well, Smith had, I think, 17 surgeries, but I mean, that Zach Miller, bad.
And he caught the touchdown. Or they took the touchdown away from him. It was bullshit.
Yeah.
I was still thinking about that.
So before Mike tells you you're going to lose week 5, because he's going to tell you you're going to lose week 5.
Oh, that's going to be a train.
I think the NFC North generally has a tough schedule this year. So I'm taking a look. I mean, obviously, they could use a divisional win off the bat. Not like Detroit's an unbeatable team, and they can beat the Giants. And so they could be 2-0 going into Atlanta. Again, strength versus strength, defense versus offense. So you look at this, there's not really like an easy stretch. I mean, winnable games on the road in Carolina again against the Chargers. The end of the year, winnable games with Houston and Jacksonville again against the AFC South. Their over-under is 8 for a team that won 8 games a year ago. And again, I think if you get better quarterback play, if you can keep that defense close to what it was, and there was really no reason it shouldn't be.
Well, we already lost Eddie Goldman. He is sitting out due to COVID, and he's a great nose tackle for us. So losing him and that depth and quality play inside, really, that's going to hinder us, especially if we lose, God forbid, if we lose Hicks again, the season's over. It's crazy how it could fall on the defensive line that bad, but other than quarterback, the game is won in the trenches. I don't know about you guys, but when I watch football, I watch it inside out. I watch from the defensive line out. And, the schedule, I agree with Anthony. I think we will hit the over 2. I think that we have a good chance to make that second wild card spot, if not win the division. Call me crazy. I know. Call me crazy. The schedule, though, and again, this is where I'm jaded, right? I could easily see us going into Detroit and beating the hell out of them. Matt Patricia is a lame duck coach. He needs to go. He's probably the worst coach in the NFL. And yeah, right. I mean, Matt Patricia is a lame duck coach. There's no reason we can't go in there and go 1-0. The Giants at home, we should win that game. You talk about a lame duck coach, Dan Quinn. What does he have on Arthur Blank that he still has his job? Like, he has to have, like, pornos or something, like recorded videos of him or something. Like, I don't understand
do you remember that one time they were in the Super Bowl and they were up 25 points with about, like 18 minutes to go?
Wow. Yeah,
I do. And it's very reminiscent of the Super Bowl last year. And there's one guy, a very overrated coach, who is a common denominator in both of those situations. But, Dan Quinn, he's supposed to be a defensive guy. There's never been defense there. In Indianapolis, I think Phillip Rivers is done. So
yeah,
call me crazy, but we could absolutely – and just what happened 2 years ago, I didn't believe it. But we could easily be 4-0 after the first quarter of the season. But we can easily be 1-3 after the first quarter of the season. So this team, I've never been so confused. When we're supposed to be good, we suck. When we're supposed to suck, we're good. I have no idea what we have at quarterback. I know everything else on the team is good. The offensive line is still shaky. They're shaky. They're the second weakest part of the team other than quarterback, but they're not a bad offensive line by any means.
I mean, Tim, I think in my own opinion, I think you split with Detroit, you split with Minnesota. You got the Jacksonville win, you have the Carolina win, and you have the New York win. After that, I think it's kind of potluck after that where this team falls, because there's always games that you're supposed to win, you lose.
Yep.
So yep. I kind of think it's a lot is up in the air. Yeah, you can say Phillip Rivers is done, but I mean that Indianapolis team is pretty good on defense, so they're going to get after the quarterback a little bit. So
I think that's going to be a lower scoring game. Two top 5 defenses in the league, in my opinion, the Bears and Indianapolis in there.
And see, I think that's going to be the Bears' problem most of the year is, their defense is lights out, and they'll keep teams under 10 points most of the time, if not 17. But the problem is the offense has got to get rolling. You can't keep winning games 10-0, 7-0. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I'm not saying getting shootouts, but you definitely got to start scoring the ball a little more. You got to get into the 20s more often than not than they did last year. So that's, I think, going to be a struggle for Chicago this year.
Well, even 2 years ago when our defense was lights out and scoring touchdowns, our offense moved the football.
Yeah,
they moved the football well. Mitch played well. I don't get I do get it. It's called watching film and making adjustments. Teams watch film, made adjustments on us. We didn't make adjustments back. So Mitch, Anthony said it earlier, Mitch has all the physical attributes, but he doesn't have it here. If it could just click.
That sounds like Jamarcus Russell to me.
Well, right. And he's going to bust out. Mike's going to think I'm crazy. You know who I wanted so bad this offseason in the absolute worst way? I would have given anything to have Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I mean, no. Yo.
I think you are crazy. Give him the crazy thing again. I think you're crazy.
Yo, 5,000-yard passers and 30 touchdown guys, they don't come around often.
Yeah, but Tim, you know why he was getting into those situations? Because he threw 30 interceptions.
Well,
so when you move the ball down the field, get picked, and then move the ball, get picked. Right. Your stats look a lot better than they should.
He also had no running game. Arguably, Tampa Bay last year compared to this Bears team was better only in one spot.
He's got a top 5 receiver.
Right. There. No, yeah, that was and tight end. But I guess last year, and that's only because of Cameron Brate, not because of O.J. Howard.
No, they're trying to get O.J. Howard out of the system.
Cameron Brate is a very, very underrated tight end. I really like that guy.
Is this on? Wait, Jameis Winston stinks.
Yeah, but he might. Yeah, but listen, but he might be the heir apparent in New Orleans. I'm dead serious. He's still
He's got LASIK too, so now he can see. All right, so Or I wanted the red rocket or the red rifle. I apologize. I never
the QB1 in Dallas.
Yeah, I wanted the QB1 in Dallas to come be the QB1 in Chicago. I don't like Foles. I don't care what he has with Nagy. I personally,
the whole league doesn't like
other in Philadelphia is a big bag of crap.
Yeah.
Listen, I hate to be. Listen, I give Doug a lot of credit for what they did in the playoffs that year, but he's just not. I mean,
not the savior. Nope.
No, and he's not a good quarterback.
And Anthony brings this up, and again, I'm sure he it keeps him up at night. Is if they make the field goal that year, they're going to the Super Bowl, and maybe. And that's, but you know what it is though? The Cowboys used to do this a lot. They used to lose games, like not just lose them, like lose them in catastrophic fashion. Like the Bears, kind of patented that the last 2 years.
It was even last year.
The Charger game at home.
Yes, thank you. Yep, that was exactly where I was going to go. The week before in Denver.
Yeah.
We came back. Crazy comeback. Mitch looked great. We get him down there. Pinheiro hits the field goal. Boom. Next week, Chargers, same thing. Mitch. But why does Mitch only play well in the hurry up? I mean, why does he only play well? You know why? It's because he's running and he's scrambling and he's getting in motion and he's moving. And that all goes back to Matt Nagy. He is a horrible coach. If you look back before Nagy was in Chicago, when the Chiefs lost that playoff game, he called I think it was it the Tennessee game? I think it was the Tennessee game that the Chiefs lost against Tennessee. He called the worst game in the world. And they even came out and said Nagy was the one with the book. He comes here, his first playoff game. All year that year, he wasn't conservative. What does he do? He's conservative as all hell. It just and then the double doink, and we're not going to be good ever again.
That cost me money and another week of agita living in this area. So.
I will tell you though, Tim, that kick by Cody Parkey, I'll tell you that kick, he didn't get abused for that. I mean, the guy was getting death threats and everything like that. That was probably worse than Scott Norwood. I mean, that's how bad. You know what?
Well, you know why though? It's because Cody Parkey went on national television that Monday on Good Morning America. I forget what he says because I forget. I don't remember specifically what the quote was he said, but he said something that was like bad. Like he needed to be choked out bad. Like I wanted to go to the TV and start throwing like haymakers at him. And I wish I remembered what the quote was, but if he didn't do that, it probably wouldn't have been as bad. But we get back in the game. We drive down the field. Doink. No. And it was
they both got vilified, but I'm serious, Brian. I think Cody Parkey in this day and age got destroyed more than Norwood did. Norwood got destroyed. Norwood, I'm surprised, wasn't hanging in his locker after the game.
And that was pre-social media days. So imagine if that was
yeah. His family got destroyed. I mean, it was bad.
My last question is a loose affiliation to something happening here in basketball. So I am not saying Mitch Trubisky is Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but it was a high pick. So to be fair, everybody talks about, what can the Sixers do with different coaching? Do you have to break this team up or can you get a different coach in there and see what they can do? Where you are right now with this team, is this something that you think if they make a coaching change that it could help Mitch? Because I think what might be like your worst fear, not your worst fear, because it wouldn't really bother. It would bother you though. Like if he doesn't,
if he goes somewhere else and succeeds, I'd fucking freak out.
Okay, then that's my
Yes.
Because it's still what I'm saying is like, do you want to see what he can do without this coaching, which you believe to be inept? And I think the fact is you're probably right. So,
right.
I'm not saying he's going to go be, find Sean McVay and they're going to be the quarterback whisperer or anything like that. But I'm saying like if he ended up going to a team that needed a quarterback and then he doesn't seem terrible, you're going to be like, well,
like Ryan Tannehill played in Tennessee.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Right. And again, people forget that Ryan Tannehill was actually a pretty decent quarterback in Miami. Under shitty Adam Gase, he had a 70% completion percentage and took them to the playoffs. As far as the 76ers go, I know that wasn't the question. They need to absolutely trade Simmons ASAP. Okay. Or one of them, because that team, those two guys will never jive together. It doesn't matter if it's Avery Johnson, Ty Lue, Mark Jackson. Does not matter who they bring there. Ben and Embiid will never play well together. And that's just my take on that really quick.
Half the team agrees with you and half the team doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, that wasn't the question, I know.
No, that's fine. That's
right.
Fine.
As far as the Bears go, my problem is who's bringing the coach in? Is Pace getting another coach?
Yeah.
Like, because Pace was with, he had the Fox thing, and then now, he brought the Nagy in, then you're going to give him yet another coach. You can't have him first-round picks. So I don't trust Pace to bring that coach in. So who's bringing that guy in? What's the playbook? And then, again, Mitch looked great in Nagy's system the first year under Nagy. Problem is he can't make adjustments. So maybe they make adjustments together. But the reason you bring Foles in is because you want to start him, correct?
Well, that or maybe you just want to just say, hey, Mitch, it's not your job. You got to earn it.
Right. I mean,
it's an expensive way to do it.
Foles isn't going to care if he's the backup. I mean, he's getting paid. He's won a Super Bowl. I don't think he cares if he's backing anyone up. Right. I mean, that's my take on him.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think he'd be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to be a Bears fan. I say that all the time. But you could say the same thing. It's tough to be a Bucs fan. Attard, your Cowboys haven't won shit since '95. You could equally say it's tough to be a Cowboys fan. So I'm not alone.
It was tolerable though until 2017.
Hey, have you guys ever gone 0-14? I have.
No, I have not endured that. Thank God.
No, that's bad.
We could go over horror stories on
Oh my God.
the worst moments as fans.
But, freshman in high school. Oh my God. The beating I took that year. Oh my God.
Listen. At the end of the day, Mike, you got 2003. You got 2002. You closed the vet. Ronde's still running.
Nick, to what Anthony just said,
this is still running across the field. Yeah.
Nagy was brought in for Mitch specifically. He whispered into Mitch's ear his first year.
Yeah.
His second year, where are the adjustments? That's what the league is all about, making adjustments. It's like a pitcher in baseball, all right? You see the pitcher for the first time, at least my White Sox, they can't hit him, all right? But then you see the pitcher 6-7 times on film, see the rotation, see where his pitches go. Guess what? You make adjustments at the plate, you hit him. And then the pitcher has to make moves. And then the hitter's got to make moves. It's fucking chess. Works the same way in the NFL. You see something, there's a reason they watch film for 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
All right? Because they need to know what's going on. They learned Mitch. Nagy said, let's keep doing the same thing. No, dude. It doesn't work like that. It just.
Definition of insanity.
Hmm.
So, listen, Tim, thank you so much for the time, guys. I can't say this enough. We love the guys at AEE. Check out their website, their Facebook page. Yep. Those guys are awesome. Friends of ours, and we're happy to have them, and we'll keep doing some joint work over time.
Thank you guys for having me, man. Appreciate it very much.
Go Cubbies.
White Sox, yeah.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Take care, boy.
I hear what he's saying. I hear what he's saying a lot. It's just, they're in such a tough spot because the defense carries the offense. The offense doesn't get better. The defense gets pissed off as well. They should. And at some point that's going to run out.
If they win 8 this year, I'll be floored. And I think they'd turn the whole season around if that happened, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that was our last guest of the night, so we'll probably go a little quicker through the rest of the team.
Yep.
We will talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the more interesting teams, pretty much because of who wasn't there last year.
Yep.
They were 8-8. They were 8-8 a year ago. Surprisingly enough, they actually finished second in the division and didn't make the playoffs, but second in the division, despite the fact they had no Ben Roethlisberger. And this is the problems were entirely offensively. They were 27th in points, 30th in yards, 31st through the air, no surprise. 29th
behind the helm. So yeah.
29th on the run, I think, is a little surprising because you probably would have thought that they would have just run the ball down people's throats.
Connor did get hurt a little bit last year, so
yeah. Defensively, though, listen, fifth best in points, 22nd in total D. So a lot of bend but don't break. It's overtime of Tampa and Boston. That's why I keep looking over my shoulder. Third against the pass, 14th against the run. They added tight end Eric Ebron, who I think is a nice addition to that team because he's a pass catching guy. Haven't really had that for the last couple of years. They added guard Stefan Wisniewski as well. They did lose Javon Hargrave, the D lineman, to the Eagles, and Artie Burns, the corner, lost as well. No first round pick. It ended up going to Miami for the Minkah Fitzpatrick, which nobody seems to care about that. You know him very well because you wanted him.
He ran, I think, 3 touchdowns back last year.
The second round, though, took a wide receiver, Chase Claypool, out of Notre Dame. We'll see what he does and what has turned out to be a wide receiver factory in Pittsburgh. I mean, they just keep recycling these guys and they keep doing well.
Yep.
Over under was 9.5. So, I mean, really just a weird year last year for the Steelers. They lost Ben early in the year to the injury, never really recovered. They made a deal, which I thought was very risky at the time. It's still not a deal I would have made given the circumstance. It has not come back to hurt them. They gave up their first-round pick when they were 0-3 to go get Minka Fitzpatrick while they had no quarterback to speak of. But listen, it worked out. They ended up being pick 18. I think you probably make that trade-off.
Yeah. No, I would too. I mean, you anchored the defense this year and it didn't pan out last year, but I think last year was a gravy year. They didn't think they were going to go that far last year anyway. So, but no, I think it did work out for them. I think they got a guy back there who's going to anchor that secondary. And like I said, picked off 3 passes. I think ran them all back.
Yeah. No, he's a great player. I just didn't, I wouldn't have I mean, if it ended up being a top 5 pick, he'd look like an idiot. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, quarterback for the future on his team. You got right now, you have 5 guys on the roster. You have Mason Rudolph, obviously Big Ben, Paxton Lynch, Devin Hodges, and JT Barrett. So you gotta hope Barrett maybe does something a little bit, considering he's a young guy. But they're not really set up for the guy that's going to take over the reins right now. It's kind of up for grabs.
But I think they're not really thinking about that. I mean, so Ben is the last guy from the 04 draft. Eli retired. Rivers is now
15 years.
Ben's the last guy, and he's coming off it. He missed all of last year, basically. So
when he's healthy, he's a warrior out there. I mean, he plays through pain and all and stuff like that. I mean, he had a bad injury last year. That's why he was out. But if he could have played through it somehow, I'm sure he would have tried because he loves being out there. But yeah, I think the Steelers, I don't know if they bounce back, but I think they have just as good, if not better, season they did last year.
Well, ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum made some waves today when he said that Ben's might be the 4th best quarterback in the North. Behind Lamar, maybe. Burrow, at some point. Baker? I'm not buying that.
No.
Not even a little bit. The defense, though, the D was very good, Mike. They led the league in takeaways last year, 38. They were tied for 5th worst in giveaways with 30, and that's the difference. I mean, let's like it's not like Winston 30-30, but it's like you're taking the ball away. That's great, but if your offense keeps giving the ball away again,
that doesn't help you. It balances out. It becomes problematic.
Yeah, you don't really get anywhere.
No, but that secondary is going to be the anchor of this. I mean, they got a good pass rush and they got a good linebacking core. They're going to be fine on defense. Just the offense, if Ben can stay healthy for this team. I mean, when do you start looking to see who's going to be the successor to him? I mean, if Connor stays healthy, they could run the ball as well. I think Connor got hurt a little bit last year, and they got kind of stuck with the passing.
Not until he goes. I mean, I think you have Ben just play him out and then figure it out after. It's not quite the Bucs with Brady, but it kind of is. I mean, they can win. They can win with it.
Oh yeah, you don't go all in if you're Steelers, but it's going to be interesting to see who they have for the foreseeable future.
So it's second place schedule. It's not a bear of a schedule, pardon the pun.
No.
The last 4 are on the road, but they're all winnable games. You go to the Giants to start. That's a winnable game on Monday night.
Yeah.
You're hosting Denver. Denver, I think, is going to be better, but not that.
Traveling across country, that's a win. For
home. Yeah, I mean, Houston should be. I mean, they could conceivably very easily be 3-0.
Yeah, then they get Tennessee, the Eagles, and Cleveland, which are going to be tough in Baltimore. So
yep. They go to Dallas off the bye, and then
Dallas.
I mean, really, things open up second half of the year. The Baltimore game is tough. Going to Buffalo is never easy, but you don't really see any games there where you're like, other than Baltimore, you're like, you're not going to win this game.
Well, I think they could split with Baltimore, so that's a plus.
Those games are always rough, Mike. The defenses. I mean, it's hard tackling games. I mean,
no, but you come out of the bye week at Dallas. At Dallas going to be a tough game. Cincinnati home, Jacksonville win. Washington win. I mean, this team could go on a little bit of a run in the second half of the season. So
Andre Palat wins it in overtime. It's a tie series.
What happened?
The Lightning won in overtime.
Okay,
I'm a hockey guy. So the over/under is 9.5. I got to tell you,
that's about right.
This is about right. But Ben's the X factor, though. He really is. And if he comes back and is the Ben that we know and love, I mean, listen, they can win 11 games. Baltimore game's a loss, right? Tennessee's tough, but there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule.
Oh yeah. So that's what I'm saying. They could conceivably get to 10. That's if things go right and Ben stays healthy.
I like 10-11, I think, for this team. And I think that's very possible. And again, if Minkah plays as well as he can, the defense is set. I mean, that defense was not this team's problem last year. If that just stays the same and the offense just gives you something, they won 8 games with no offense.
Right.
To be fair. And they started off 0-3. So, I mean, I'm just watching the replay. That's bad by Boston. Oh, well, don't really care. I like the over, and I think they're a playoff team. I think especially with the
agree. Yep, I agree.
I do think that they're going to be a playoff team.
Yep.
We will stay in the AFC North to talk about very, very interesting team in the Baltimore Ravens, because talk about a team that blew it. And I'm just being honest.
Well, you got one person to blame for that who didn't play well at all in that game.
But let me give you some of these rankings, because they were phenomenal last year. Yeah, and I sat on the show a year ago and I said, this might be the worst offense in the NFL. They stuck it up my ass.
Well,
they stuck it up my ass hard.
When it comes to playoffs, it's a whole different ballgame. And that's what Lamar has to get out of his system. Lamar Jackson's got that out of his system. But I always tell you about second-year quarterbacks. It's always a step back factor, whether it's a small step or a big step. We'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson this year. I don't think it's a real big step, but I think he does take a step back this year.
We will see. They were 14-2 a year ago. First place AFC North. They lost their first playoff game of the division round to Tennessee. Best offense in football in points, second best in yards, 27 through the air, but numero uno on the ground. Yep. Defensively, just as good. Third least points allowed, fourth in yards, sixth against the pass, fifth against the run. I mean, listen, this team was great on both sides of the ball.
Mark Ingram had a phenomenal year. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think he was going to have as good a year as he had. He really came up big.
They added Calais Campbell via trade, defensive end. They also added DJ Fluker, the guard. Hayden Hurst was traded. I mean, it was with Mark Andrews. I mean, this wasn't a spot for him.
Yep.
And then Earl Thomas was recently let go due to conduct detrimental to the team. We'll see if he ends up in Dallas or not. I kind of hope that he does. But
or Tampa.
Again, yeah. In the draft, Patrick McQueen, linebacker from LSU at 28th, who I thought could have gone earlier.
Yep.
I like that pick a lot for them. They really need to replace C.J. Mosley, and they really didn't last year. Their over-under was 11.5. Here's a stat for you, Mike. They were the only team in the league to run for more yards than pass last year.
When you can run the ball effectively as they did, why not?
Absolutely. And it's a really disappointing loss, the way they lost to Tennessee in the divisional round. So I don't know.
It's a tough schedule.
We'll get to it. Do you think that Lamar – I mean, I don't know.
I just think people in the second year of a quarterback's time in the league, the first year you come in, you're kind of a wild card. People don't know your tendencies. They don't know what you're doing. You're running here, you're running there. You're up in the air. You're a wild card, and Lamar Jackson was that. Now that there's the thing called film, they will go back and look at his film and know what Lamar Jackson does. I'm not saying they're going to shut him down, but they will slow him down. He's going to have to make adjustments. It's going to be a big, interesting thing if Lamar Jackson in his second year can make adjustments in the league, and you're going to see that.
He's going to be a run-first guy.
Absolutely. But how many run-first quarterbacks make it in the league anymore?
I hear you.
This is not Michael Vick league anymore. It's not, because linebackers and DBs are very fast. And, you saw that, what's his name? Johnny Money tried to do it. And what happened to him? Yeah. What happened to him? How did he make out?
Yeah. Not too well. So the schedule is going to be a first place schedule, and they alternate home and road for the first 7 games. But you look at it at first blush, it's actually not that bad. The only game you really are concerned about is Kansas City.
Yep.
I mean, the home game against Pittsburgh is tough.
Maybe the Eagles on the road.
No, I don't think so. I think they're probably fine. They could easily be 6-1. And again, Baltimore, the thing about that is, here's my concern, right? The Houston game, not that I think Houston's any good, because I really don't, but they could easily be looking forward to the Kansas City game.
They go 6-1. You are on easy street to that 11-win.
Oh yeah. I mean,
there's no way they lose less than 5 or they don't win more than 5.
You got the Jags and the Giants late in they're going to win their last 4 games. At the very least, their last 3 games.
Because they might not need the last game. So.
The tough games for them are Kansas City, Dallas, a Pittsburgh game. I think this is the 12-win, 13-win team.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. And I think that they're pissed off after last year. I think that they want to, set things right because by all means, they were good enough to win last year. That loss, if they end up winning the Super Bowl this year, they're going to look back at that loss that was the best thing that happened to us because it really put things in perspective. We had Trace McSorley on the show not long ago, who was the third string quarterback, and he said that was a very disappointing loss for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as the Ravens go, I think they win the division pretty easily, actually. I think they could easily get the top seed in the end. Well, it's them in Kansas City, so it might come back to that game. I don't know. I think that they're a team to contend with for sure. I think they're one of the top teams.
Lamar does. Yep. I think he's takes a step back. I mean, I still think they win a division, but it's not going to be an easy road like they had last year. So,
well, I don't know if it was that easy last year, but
it seemed easy for them. That's what I mean.
Cleveland Browns, the perennial problems because they're the Browns.
Yep.
6-10, third place in the division, didn't make the playoffs. Guys, for a team that took a quarterback first overall not that long ago, should you really be 22nd in passing offense?
Yeah, how'd that
when you
work
have
out?
Odell Beckham,
how does he look?
and Jarvis Landry, and pass catching tight ends,
And the diva, Beckham, out there.
22nd, 22nd
to get traded, and now he's fine being there. So
22nd in points, 22nd in total offense. Every time this stupid thing, this is supposed to be it.
and you got a tight end in Njoku. So
There you go. I fixed it. And does just signed Austin Hooper, which we'll talk about. But 22nd through the air, 12th on the ground. The defense was very average. 20th in points, 22nd in total defense, 7th against the pass. Thank you, Denzel Ward. 30th against the run. Yeah. Big high-profile additions, though.
Baker's second year.
It wasn't that good his first year. Jack Conklin, the tackle, was added from Tennessee. Austin Hooper got a big deal coming from Atlanta. Andrew Sendejo, the former Viking, former Eagle, and Case Keenum was the backup quarterback, probably going to stay there. They lost Demarius Randall. They lost Greg Robinson. They did take Jedrick Willis with their first pick, 10th overall out of Alabama to protect Baker. Their over-under is 8 wins. Huge disappointment, though. I sat here on this show and I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to lie. I did. I thought that they were going to be very good last year. I thought they were going to win the division, at least make the playoffs, and they stunk.
On paper, they looked really good. We both, I think, had them going pretty far, saying if they put it all together and keep it all together, they could do well, but they couldn't. And Baker stumbled, had a terrible year, and Beckham was bitching some games and throwing his helmet on the sidelines, and it came apart mid-season. They really fell apart. So.
Another new head coach in Cleveland. This seems like I looked into this. You're going to be crazy, some of these numbers.
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski came over from Minnesota. Mike, he is the 12th head coach since this team came back in 98.
And I said it to you before, maybe the last guy wasn't the right guy, but still these guys picking the coaches. I mean, you're not keeping anybody there with any kind of continuity to get anything going. You can't expect a guy to come in there, any coach out there, I don't care who it is, and turn this team around to a point where it's like 11, 12 wins. It's not going to happen. You need a couple years to get this ship on the right path. And if Cleveland's not going to do that, they're going to struggle every year like this.
The guy who coached the most games was Romeo Crennel, coached 64 games. He was there for 4 years. Here's my thing, though. We said it when Freddie Kitchens was hired. This is stupid. Because and he proved it in the Jet game week 2 when he left Baker Mayfield out there when he's up 20 points to get killed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me,
he wasn't the right guy, but you got to make the right moves. I mean, you got to make the right coaches.
What do you think about the Stefanski hire?
Again, you got to give this guy a shot. If any coach is going to work out there, you got to let the guy stay there for a year. You got to let him come in there and have a 2-year, 3-year plan for him and get him out of there then. If you want to do that, you can't blow guys year after year after year out. It doesn't work, Brian. It's not going to work. And you could have bring Belichick in his first year. You think he would turn his team into a 12-win team? Because they have issues. They have problems.
Yeah, but Mike, the talent is there to be better than the 22nd best offense.
I agree. But in the same sense, you're not going to turn any team as bad as the Cleveland Browns are into a 5 or 6 wins better because of a coach. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. 2 guys. I mean, the story of this team is Baker and Odell. The running game is very good. Nick Chubb is underrated because he plays in Cleveland.
Yep.
And not Kareem Hunt because the situation's off the field, but he's an excellent player. I mean,
great situation for him. Great situation. He's going to have a good year this year.
I need to see something out of Baker Mayfield this year. I do, or else I got to figure this out. I mean, I used a first overall pick on this guy.
Well, you're not gonna get, again, first round picks. They're gonna give him every opportunity to succeed as long as they can before anybody starts tearing the walls down in Cleveland.
It's just nuts. Ryan Leach commenting in the watch party. Browns change quarterbacks and coaches like underwear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which he's not. And that's why they change it pretty often because they stink. Odell's been talking about will he trade? Will he not be traded? He's still there. I think they probably have some buyer's remorse from that deal they made because he has not worked out at all.
Nope.
What are your expectations? Because he's still going relatively high in fantasy drafts.
I would say best case scenario for Cleveland 8-8. Worst case 6-10. Because I don't like Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I don't think he's making the proper steps forward. And you start with your quarterback. So
the over under is 8. We'll bring the schedule up, take a look at it. We'll see if we can find 8 wins. Probably gonna be hard to do that. All right, so I'm already owed 1. Probably 2 wins at home.
Cincinnati,
right, I got them 2-2 at the first 4.
Yeah, and then you got Dallas, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Cincy, maybe, and Vegas. They could big. Well,
I got them 4-4 at the bye.
It's about right. Okay, they could beat Houston possibly.
I got them 6-6 after the first 12 games.
That's about it. Then the Jets maybe.
This is an 8-8 team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's right there. It's right there.
And that's not enough. That's not enough the schedule's not easy. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you got games here. You go to New York 2 weeks in a row around Christmas time. That'll be fun. But yeah, 8-8. I got him 8-8. That's not good enough.
No, I'll take the under if I put a gun on my head.
Under 8-8.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I hear you.
They stink.
Last but certainly not least, or maybe it is least because they're the Detroit Lions, is the Detroit Lions. I mean, the Detroit Lions. Detroit. 3-12-1. 4th place of the division, didn't make the playoffs. 18th in offense, 17th in yards, 10th in passing, no questions. Matt Stafford, 21st on the ground, probably why they drafted DeAndre Swift. Their defense was shit last year. 26th in points, 31st in yards, 32nd in passing. There's 32 teams in the league. And 21st against the run. They added a cornerback, Desmond Trufant. They added a linebacker, Jamie Collins, veteran guy for defense. Traded Darius Slay for not enough. Snacks Harrison left as well. It made sense, though, when they got rid of Darius Slay, they would use the 3rd overall pick on Jeff Okudah, the cornerback out of Ohio State. The over-under for this team is 6.5. Mike, let me give you some startling numbers. They were 2-0-1. They lost 12 of their last 13 games, including 9 in a row to end the year. They did not win a game after Halloween.
Could have been Patricia's leg when he got hurt. That could have happened. That probably would hurt him. Injuries.
Patricia the coach, but it just.
That's what I'm saying. Obviously, when he got hurt, remember he's skating around.
Why?
That's a joke. But anyway.
Tell me why he's still employed.
He stinks. He probably should have got fired in the offseason. So.
He's a defensive head coach, and they're 31st.
And you got a quarterback who's got some pretty damn good numbers, and they're just not getting it done. I can't explain it.
Defensive head coach, and they're 31st.
It's the Detroit Lions. I don't know. Maybe it's a curse. I don't know. They brought in DeAndre Swift, who I think if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a really good running back for them.
Ryan Leach injuries killed the Lions last year. Healthy Matt Stafford is key, but listen, he's 32. Like there ain't that much runway left here for these guys.
No,
I mean,
he's been taking a beating too.
Talk about a wasted career, but at least he got paid.
Yeah, it's very true. Hall of Famer?
No, you can't make it.
I think he might be close with numbers wise.
Who has more playoff wins, me or Matt Stafford? I'm serious.
It's true, but I'm saying number wise, he's got numbers.
Useless numbers that don't mean anything.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame, they do.
The league's an offensive league. They allow the disaster. That's why these guys leave this team at 29. That's why Calvin left.
Yeah, that killed him when they have Megatron left. That hurt him really bad.
Like, how do you lose 9? How do you lose 12 or 13? How?
You stink.
They won the game in Philly in week 3. We're like, oh my god, maybe this team's legit.
You can win by accident. You can win one of those games. I mean, We could put a team together in Hamilton to win one of those games.
So apparently, Grindley says the GM to ball Patricia in. If he goes, the GM may go with him. Well,
of course, that's got to be obvious for keeping them.
So I'm going to show you a schedule, which I'm.
What's their over 6?
Their over under is 6.5. 6 in the hook.
Ooh.
6 and the. So let's see. All right, let's see if we can find the wins. Probably not gonna find the wins. I mean, they were a 3-win team last year. All of a sudden, they're gonna win 6.5. Jeremy Bless, he makes the Hall of Fame in Detroit. Well, if Detroit has a Hall of Fame, I guess. Of
course we will. Yeah.
I guess they let him in.
Yeah.
So all right, they're 0-4 at the bye. They're 0-4 at the bye. Listen,
they might lose to Jacksonville in Jacksonville.
They went into Arizona. I mean, first off, 4 of the first 6 on the road is no joke. But again, Chicago, Green Bay beat them. They tied Arizona last year, but Arizona's a better team this year. They're not beating Detroit. They're not beating the Lions. No question. They're 0-4 at the break.
They lose to Jacksonville probably because Jacksonville's not going to lose every game.
All to win off the bye. I got 1 win there.
Okay. Then they lose to Atlanta, lose to the Colts, lose to the Vikings. They could be Washington, Carolina.
Under. It's under. Yeah. I don't see it. Do you?
Yeah, it's week 16 are going to be wiped off the planet because the Bucks might need that game. So
under.
Yeah, they're in a lot. Yeah, 6.5. Yeah, I'm liking the under too.
And
that's a putrid schedule. Who are they beating on that schedule? My God.
The coach has to go. There's no question. The coach has to go.
He's probably get fired at the bye week.
The Belichick coaching tree stinks. Nobody has panned out.
They are a process of him.
So stupid. I mean, my God, I don't get it. Like, just because Belichick doesn't mean the guys that he worked for him are any good.
Yeah.
Listen, you want to know the next time a Belichick guy gets a job, you know how I'm going to feel?
Justin Thomas, after his excellent approach shot, ran all the way toward the back of the green for birdie.
Dude, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Well.
And you weren't going to save that. I love that.
I'll use it. I'll use it. Come on. I mean, this is like, Patricia, name me a coach that went somewhere and didn't suck. There was a Belichick guy.
No, you're probably right.
Are you going to give me when what's his name went to Denver? What? Because they want to play a game with Tim Tebow? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
People have to stop with the Belichick coaching tree. It is very clear. It's just him. Nobody.
He's the roots of that tree, and that's it.
Unreal. Well, listen, that wraps up the Norths. Nice long show. I'm sure next week will be longer. When we go through the Easts, got 8 guests scheduled, so we're just going to have a lot of fun.
Buckle up for that. I'm going to get a sleeping bag here.
Going through the East next week. Special shout out to our friends over at Crowd Play. Check out their
6 will be done by 10:30. So.
Yeah, go for 11. Just make sure. Well, maybe I'll try to build in a bathroom break or something because I have to go. Do I count Vrabel? Yeah, but Vrabel hasn't won yet. No, you know what?
He's on the right path.
No. You know what? We brought this up. I don't count Vrabel because Vrabel didn't coach there. His coaching tree.
There, yeah, it's true.
Vrabel was just a linebacker there. He was an assistant. He wasn't. Vrabel didn't coach there.
I don't think he was an assistant there. No, I don't think he was.
So, but again, I want to give a shout out to Crowd Play. Check this out. Jeremy thinks you look great.
Thank you, Jeremy. I've been walking 4 miles and keeping my calories under 1,700. I lost 30 pounds in about 3 months. So that's what I've been doing. So feel good. Feeling good.
Good job,
So
bud.
that wraps it up for us tonight. We want to thank you all for watching, as normally, to the Highly Opinionated Show. We always give great knowledge, great feedback, and we're lovable guys. So for myself, Hamilton, Mike Galletta, and Brian the Ranger Attard, thank you for watching. Catch you next week.
NFC East, AFC East, join us. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.